Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Heroic Efforts. Thank you for joining us once again on this incredible episode. I'll see myself out. My name is Andy Foreman. As always, I am one of your co-hosts, and as always, I am joined by Mr. Martin Fisher.
I always say Hulk smash when I take a giant shit, so I get the feeling.
And on that note, we are joined as well by Mr. Nick Talamante.
What's happening, everybody?
And today, we are concluding our two-part series on the two Hulk movies that exist. Bafflingly, there's only two. Yeah. So it made it really easy. But while y'all are in theaters, watching Harrison Ford turn into a Red Hulk, we were in the comforts of our own homes, watching Ed Norton turn into one of the best Hulks.
I've got a problem. There are aspects of my personality that I can't control.
See a shrink?
It's a little bit more complicated than that.
Bruce, trust me when I tell you I've heard them all.
Not this one.
There we go. That's how you clicked on the video, you know what we're talking about. I don't have to do the intro.
You got to see Ed Norton turn into a Hulk that looks nothing like Ed Norton.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, today we are talking about the second and so far final Hulk solo film, The Incredible Hulk, 2008's very own. This came out only a few months after the wild success of Iron Man, which kicked off the MCU. And I think we should probably just contextualize what the summer of 2008 was like.
It was
mythical. If you guys thought like 2019 was great or 2017 was great, 2008 was insane. That had Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, The Dark Knight. It had Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, Hancock, Hellboy 2. You could go on and on and on. Well, WALL-E was the Pixar movie for that year. It was non-stop. I still remember Entertainment Weekly had a giant-sized issue with Harrison Ford on the cover as Indiana Jones, and there was a thing on the cover that said, like, try to run, this summer Hollywood is gonna pop your corn.
Oh my god.
Is that a threat?
I don't like
Yeah,
that.
and then also there was like a little perfume ad in there where you opened it and it was like a card and it would play a song, and it was that like, I got a pocket full of sunshine, and I would open it randomly to like annoy people. But yeah, no, they had these are the things I remember.
I can just imagine
this is what I remember.
sneaking up on people and just be like, I got a pocket full of sunshine.
It's the craziest harassment I've ever heard in my life.
Like a little fucking gremlin roaming around.
But yes, Hollywood was also harassing us this year with
not in the Weinstein way, actually. Surprisingly.
Yeah, no. Yeah, they were harassing us with blockbusters.
See,
most of which were pretty good.
This is pre-Weinstein, where no sexual harassment went on whatsoever, right, guys?
Yeah.
Nothing was wrong in Hollywood. It was all golden at this point.
Exactly. Yeah, the true golden age of Hollywood was the year that The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor came out.
Which is honestly worse than most sexual assaults. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my god.
Oh Lord. Yeah,
but
it's funny you bring that up because
this
was a huge summer. Major. I remember it very vividly because your boy was turning 13, so it was a golden year for me in many ways, your penis starts working and the movies are great. So.
Yeah. Movies are good, my balls are dropping, life is good.
Life is good.
Sarah J has just hit the scene.
The Messiah.
Anna Michaels is doing her thing.
It was a beautiful time, and like Andy's right. So like in May, you got immediately like Iron Man fucking hit. Well, I mean Andy's right about the Sarah J thing too, but then Iron Man fucking came out in May and it hit, and then Incredible Hulk came out and it was awesome. And Andy's losing his mind right now. And The Dark Knight came out in July and changed everything. And then there was a pretty good Indiana Jones movie, the last pretty good one. And then you got like fucking Hancock, which is a big surprise hit. Hellboy 2, which was great and it bombed. And Mummy, the Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, which is not good at all. all, and it didn't do very well.
We got Punisher Warzone in
Punisher
December.
Warzone in December, which, probably not equal to a lot of these, but still fun.
Yeah.
It was a golden year, man. It's the year that I remember specifically because that Christmas I got fucking Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, all of the Batman, all of Batman the Animated Series, all of Teen Titans, all on DVD, and Batman vs. Dracula. It was the best Christmas ever.
Gosh, that's so much stuff to watch. You wouldn't even have time for Sarah J.
I found a way.
Damn right.
Sometimes at the same time.
God.
Well, yeah. So it was a huge, huge summer. So much so that Hulk movies were kind of considered the underdogs at this point, when previously, just a few years ago, it would have been like the biggest blockbuster, or at least would have been thought to be the biggest blockbuster. Yeah. And that's the thing, is I think this movie, even in its legacy, has kind of an underdog status, because it's much smaller stakes than most of the other MCU movies. It's up until only about 5-6 years ago was it ever even referenced in the MCU going forward.
Yeah,
it wasn't until 2016 that they even brought back William Hurt as General Ross. And this movie came out and it got fairly mixed reception, but I'll tell you right now, I saw it in theaters. It was fucking awesome. That was the year. You had a great year, Martin. That was also the year that I met Stan Lee for the first time. So that was a good year to be like a 10-year-old, 11-year-old Marvel fan. And when this came out, and granted, I'm a kid, don't have the most discerning taste, but when this came out, I liked this almost as much as Iron Man, I would say. And looking back as an adult, it's not as airtight as Iron Man, but it is a very worthy B side of that album.
Well, this is where the weird thing with Teenage Me comes into, where it's I remember when Iron Man came out, I didn't like it at all, and now it's my favorite, one of my favorite origin films. But for whatever reason, the first Iron Man I just didn't like. I think it's because my friend, who I still talk to this very day, my best bud, he was so into the movie, and I was like, nah, it's gonna be a piece of shit. The Hulk is where it's at, And then I didn't want to admit fuck, it was really good. God damn it! So I had to pick up on that a few years later. So, but it's you would think Hulk would be the big one for the summer, not Iron Man, but Iron Man was such a huge success and had such an airtight, just what it was just such a perfect storm of things that weren't supposed to work and shouldn't have worked somehow came together and worked. Incredible Hulk was a thing of they had probably a pretty decent script, they had a good performer, they had a solid action director, so they were pretty much good to go. And we'll get down into that a little bit later, but then somebody goes what if you chop out 20 minutes of this and release it in the middle of June?
I think the big thing is we have to talk about the reception to Ang Lee's Hulk as well.
This movie.
Yes, I remember when I was hearing, I believe it was Mark Waid, he had been brought in to pitch a Superman reboot, pre-Man of Steel, and he was saying you have to treat Man of Steel like the Incredible Hulk, and Superman Returns the Ang Lee Hulk. And I think Superman Returns and Ang Lee's Hulk both occupy very similar spaces, and we'll get to Superman Returns someday. But it's where it's these weird kind of versions of the character that work as a one-off and probably could have supported a franchise if people had really been behind it. But as it stands, just feels kind of a one-shot Elseworlds kind of story, And so going into this, the Incredible Hulk was meant to be, as you said on the last episode, Martin, this was the one where the general audience was supposed to embrace this. It was supposed to have a little something for everyone, not be kind of the weird, super auteur-driven movie that we got in 2003.
Yes, this is definitely the studio note one. I think we'll get into the whole quality and how we feel of it at the end of the day, but I still think it's a solid movie. I still think the action in it is spectacular. It just, for me, it's a solid film, but it is definitely, you can tell, this was made in direct response to the poor reception to Hulk. And this is the one where they were okay, now we're giving people what they want. But at this point, people were getting that from every other department, essentially. So,
this
is what it is.
Yet again, like Superman Returns and Man of Steel, people just wanted the Hulk to punch something.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
and you know, you didn't even watch the first one. He punched the Absorbing Man. He punched the water that the Absorbing Man had gone
Hey,
into.
he punched that dog in the
No,
balls,
no.
right?
Yeah.
That's
but-
correct, because that was my view at the same time too, where it was like I loved the first Hulk movie when it came out, but even little kid me was like, I wish he like punched like a monster like more. Like I wish that was a little bit more in there. It's probably why the video game helped fill that need a little bit more. But it's the same thing with Superman Returns, where I'm like, can you like fucking like punch a robot or something, man? This is fucking ridiculous. And then Man of Steel comes out and it's like 40% action scenes in that movie, so I fucking love it.
Yeah.
So you have to you got to make your auteur driven thing, but give the people what they want a little bit more, like sprinkle a little bit more action in there, and you'll be fine. Especially with characters who it's like physical power is so important to a degree. So, Hulk is a big one for that. So,
I don't think this movie succumbs to the criticisms that Man of Steel would have succumbed to.
Right. Yes.
At the time, because I think this does. It has the action sequences spread out a lot more.
It spreads them out a lot better. But it's just funny to think about, because like Man of Steel has like those like era of 9/11 moments in it, but in fucking Incredible Hulk, there's literally parts where the Abomination is picking up civilians and just fucking chucking them and shit.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shit you wouldn't even get.
and then they have the little
movies.
It's like the Wilhelm scream, right?
Yeah, it's
they
like
go
for
flying.
a joke as he like fucking beats some dude to death with his fists, some random civilian running away.
Well, I mean, we can just jump right into the story then if we're going to start talking about the characters and everything. The original plan for Hulk 2, following Ang Lee's Hulk, would have been including the Gray Hulk, which, Joe Fixit. Although I don't know if they would have gone the full like Las Vegas Enforcer route, but it would have been the Gray Hulk, Abomination and the Leader as the villains. Now that kind of carries over into this, because this movie, again, this is kind of like Superman Returns in that it's kind of just a soft reboot. And you know what? I think this falls in very well with what they were trying to do at the time with Punisher Warzone, and a little later Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, and then arguably even like James Mangold's The Wolverine, where it's like, this kind of technically could be considered a sequel to the last one insofar as it like thematically picks up where the last one left off, but you don't have to see the first one.
Yeah, you don't have to. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you don't have to watch the first Hulk to enjoy this one. Even though it takes place, it picks up literally where that last one ends in South America.
Yeah, and it starts off with Bruce Banner in South America, which I think. Well, first off, it starts off with a great opening credit sequence. Like those opening credits are bangers. Yeah, and it perfect homage to the Bill Bixby show too, because it's not. It is what you always want from these things, where it takes the iconography but puts it into a story where it fits and takes it seriously. There's no jokes about like, oh, like how do your pants stay on if you turn into the Hulk? Blah blah blah. I think there is a pants joke in this, but
there is one pants
joke, and it's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's better than what I just said.
It's you're never gonna get a gag like that anymore, where he just like gets the stretchy pants and puts it in front of a woman's fat ass and goes like.
Actually, correction. There are two pants jokes in this movie. The first one, which I think works pretty well, it's like Marty just said, him at some fucking Mexican like street market, and he's holding up the pantalones, and he's like next to a very large woman. He's like stretching them, being like, oh, I'll take these. These will fit. They should fit on me. But then later in the film, it does kind of the smarmy thing we're referring to, where Liv Tyler throws him like the bright purple stretchy pants, and she's like, these are only elastic pants I could find. He's like, nah, I'd rather be naked, and like throws them back to her. So that's the only other like joke where they kind of like
that's kind of like the yellow spandex gag in X-Men a little bit.
Yeah, but it's not that bad. And like I was gonna say, like the first joke you referred to, where he holds them up to the woman's ass, that's a very Michael Bay Transformers joke, and I say that as a compliment.
Yeah.
I say that as a compliment. Like that.
You know what that
I
means?
could easily see that.
Hulk has a dump truck like an abuela. So.
Oh yeah.
Don't make me think about one of my favorite characters in a different way. You are crossing the streams of my interest in ways that
Hulk clap.
Yes, that puts a thunderclap in a whole different context. What if the end of the movie, when he's trying to put out the fire, and instead of him like running up and doing that big heroic clap, he just runs it like ass first and then lands and like fucking just makes it go.
It's like
No,
that
but it's like
that fucking
and you see
music
William
video.
Hurt and Liv Tyler still go like,
Oh, it's like the turn down for what music videos.
Yeah, he's like just causing all these earthquakes for him just fucking twerking.
you know what? Give it another 2 years, and Mark Ruffalo's Hulk will be doing that
He'll
in
be
the MCU. If She-Hulk somehow miraculously gets a second season, which it won't, but if it somehow miraculously gets a second season, he will be doing that.
Oh my god,
100%.
I forgot about that. We did have a Hulk thing where the Hulk of the show was twerking. I forgot about that.
I know. I was just about to say, like, as we said it, I was like, wait a minute, they literally did this.
Well, you know what? If Harrison Ford twerks as the Red Hulk in the new Captain America movie, all is forgiven.
Can you imagine his old ass? He's like, Mr. Ford, we want you to twerk. You know, like that'd be insane.
You can practically see the mocap saggy skin just flapping up and down.
Oh yeah.
Good lord.
Well,
but yeah. Anyway.
The intro to this movie is a fucking banger. Like first off, the score is incredible. Craig Armstrong knocked it out of the park with this. And what I love about the opening is it is so efficient. It is like it's boom, 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 boom. It's exciting, and you get everything you need to know about this character and his history in 2 minutes. Like a lot of movies could really learn from this.
You immediately set up, how he becomes the Hulk, his relationship with Betty Ross, the anger that Thunderbolt Ross has for him, and then he's on the run. It's perfect. It's so efficient. It's such a great way to tell the whole Hulk origin in 2 minutes flat. And I feel like, it's a great counterpoint to like, we love Hulk. It's such a great fucking perfect. It's a perfect movie in my eyes. It's fantastic. But this is very much like, okay, like you've already got the origin film a few years ago. We're not going to do that again. We're just going to go right into the action. But hey, if you haven't seen this, here's basically what it is. Okay, cool. Now we're just going to tell the story. It's a very tight, efficient way, and it's an aggressive way of doing it. And I think you can play that with the music as well, as both films are total opposites of each other in the sense that Hulk is a very soft film in a way, like in the way that Danny Elfman's score is very methodical and very melody based, and this one is very aggressive and very fucking like the theme of the movie is it is very muscular and just gets to the fucking point. So which is what you need when you're doing kind of a soft reboot sequel.
It's clearly inspired by like the Jason Bourne movies that were popular at the time. Even in like you see lots of like military dudes infiltrating apartments and But what's cool is like the way it tells the story, like they're finding like these little vials, and you see the file that says like, oh, no sightings for 5 months, and then it says like green Sasquatch spotted on campus. That's just. It's awesome. That's really great. And then there's like the little teasers of like, it says like, oh, memo to Nick Fury. And then it says like Rick Jones on one of the things. And it's this.
Like Stark Industries, just like the teasing. I completely agree. I think that that's upon this like rewatch, that's one of the things that stood out to me. I was like, this is a really solid intro just to catch you up to speed, just to, as Marty said, allude to the iconography of the first film, to either jog your memory or just give you like the essence. Like there's you get it. Like you watch that, and even if you had seen the Ang Lee Hulk, you'd be like, okay, no, I get it. Like I understand fully what's going on here. And then of course again that early MCU like building with like Andy had mentioned. So yeah, I think the credit sequence very, very efficient, very condensed, and I think honestly it's like very nutritious. Like it packs a lot into it. It's
very nutritious. Yeah, much like the Hulk himself. It's funny because like you bring up these duologies of reboot quills that happened with Marvel for this period of time, and it's funny like all three of them, when I think of Incredible Hulk, Punisher, Warzone, and Ghost Rider, all have these like really good opening credit sequences that are just laying the groundwork of what this character is. Okay, you're caught up to speed now. Here it is. Now we're gonna go all fucking balls in, basically. Yeah,
and like I said, like I just wish there would have been a Daredevil reboot quill at this time. Like I like alternate universe, I would have loved that. But no, like there's certain characters that really don't need origins because it's so well known in the public consciousness. And those are Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, Hulk. That's not to say you shouldn't do origin movies of these characters, because some of these origin movies are absolute bangers. But it's one of those things where if you just start with them being the character, fine, people will understand. This ain't like Green Lantern where you have to establish the ring and the core and all that kind of shit. Like It's much different. We'll get to Green Lantern someday, but
God. that a her?
Yeah, but well, the thing is like this opening credit sequence has a lot of impact. It could have had even more impact because they cut the opening like little non sequitur opening. Yes, where Bruce Banner goes up to the Arctic with a gun, tries to put it in his mouth and kill himself, and transforms into the Hulk before he can do it, and then he breaks the fucking like iceberg or thing, like glacier that he's standing on, and that's also where like the shockwave is coming at the camera, and you briefly see Captain America frozen in the ice. In that.
Oh,
yeah,
that but what the fuck?
Yeah, because he tries to kill himself, and then it cuts to, like, you see the eyes go green, it cuts to, like, his actual POV, and you see the Hulk hand with, like, the little gun in it, and he just crushes it, and, like, then it cuts to credits. I'm like, that would have been a fucking banger, too. That would have been amazing.
And again, it works in the sense of it gets across the tragedy of the Hulk, but also is an intense sequence. It gets across the we're getting right to the fucking point. You know, we're going to open on a suicide attempt, which already is not something most Marvel films will do now.
Well, also, well, because we've established the opening credits, and then it goes straight into Bruce being in South America, where we left him in Ang Lee's Hulk. But the thing is this is as good a time as any to talk about Edward Norton in this role, who is perfect for this character. Absolutely 100% perfect. I think he brings his A game. And the thing is I love about it is there's not a hint of cynicism in it at all. You can tell that Edward Norton didn't have to do this. He doesn't have to. You can tell he signed on because he thought there was really a lot to unpack with this character. And you see it in every frame.
Oh yeah, no, definitely his performance. I like because I'm blanking on the first one right now in Hulk 2003. The actor
Eric Bana.
He's still my favorite Hulk actor. I think he gets across that subtlety, and he is perfect for that version of Hulk. Edward Norton is basically exactly the Bruce Banner I would read in the comics, though. He's got that look down. He's got the feel of that character down. I think down to a T, and his performance is it encapsulates exactly what I would expect from a Bruce Banner adaptation, in the sense of like he's a little frantic, he's a little unsure all the time, he's a little like meek in certain circumstances, but he's highly intelligent and he's ready to do what he has to do to survive. And I just love like even like the opening of this movie, I love like you get to see him in his life for a little bit before the military shows up. He's up to. He's working in a factory. He's trying to learn how to speak Spanish and failing horrifically. He's trying, and I love seeing like we're revisiting him and seeing where he is now in the world. And I don't know, it's something. It's a cool thing to see in a Marvel film, the character on the run who has adjusted their life. And it's not just like character on the run who's still like, doing their espionage shit or still being a superhero. It's someone who's on the run who's just trying to live a normal life now.
No, yeah, if he hadn't cut his finger, they never would have found him.
Yes. Yep.
Like,
exactly.
And as it goes with many... Well, I was going to say, as it is with many people that are chased by the U.S. government, eventually you'll just slip up. Yeah. But, like, especially if you're a big green nuclear bomb. But, no. He's like, it opens with him being as much of a normal person as he can be. He even has, like, maybe a little romance thing going with the lady that works in the factory that he works in.
The one that gets harassed by, like, the dude with, like, the weird nub fingers.
Yeah. He always looks like that guy. I don't know who that actor is. He's such a character actor. He looks like a little rat man all the time. He's all moist.
Yeah. But yeah, he's just from Central Casting, and they just put on their thug.
He's great.
Yeah, no, I completely agree though with Marty. I think Norton's role is fantastic in this. Like you said, when you read the comics, Edward Norton I think really channels what I hear and what I kind of imagine Bruce Banner is in most of the comics, at least the ones that I enjoy from Hulk, which really disappoints me knowing that they did the whole suicide thing in the beginning and they cut that, because that's one of my favorite like kind of I don't know about tropes, but maybe like kind of subplots that the whole comics, at least the few that I've read, play with. Like I love him trying to kill himself or him about to be killed, and then the Hulk like bursts out.
Well, fear not, because it is on the DVD and Blu-ray and 4K. It is in the deleted scene, so you can watch it. It is readily accessible to watch. So. It's just, I do agree with you. It's something that should have been in the original cut of the movie. I'm sure it's a producer note thing where it's like, well, the superhero can't try and kill himself. That's ridiculous. We're trying to make this a summer action movie. Get that out of there. And then they reference it in Avengers later on. So,
Yeah,
Well,
fucking cowards.
Mark Ruffalo Hulk, who would absolutely not do that because he's too much of a pussy. So
No balls.
Well, the thing is they do a great job of establishing sort of the tragedy of the Hulk and how much like yeah, it sucks being the Hulk, but your life just kind of has to go on.
Yes.
You know, like you say, like he's working, trying to make a cure for himself, and he's got like a picture of Betty just there to like inspire him. You know, you like, this is a guy who really wants
only porn that he has.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, he had that big satellite thing, like you know, like that he uses to talk to Mr. Blue.
But like, he sits down at his little chair, he turns on the TV, and you just hear that Hulk theme play as Sarah J's on the TV. Just like, boom, boom, boom.
I was gonna say, instead of him cutting his finger.
I was gonna say his little like heartbeat tracker, like Sarah J comes on his little heartbeat tracker, just like beep 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 beep.
Yeah, so like instead of him cutting his finger and that's how they find him, he's just like illegally downloading porn or some shit, and they're like, sir, have something for you. Possible Sarah J. Yeah,
only one man would be sick enough to do this.
He's like, instead of where was it bottled, he's like, where was he gooning?
He's in South America, of course.
Oh god,
Yeah.
They pull like a Spider-Man thing. It's like it's some other bodily fluid that ends up in the bottle that kills
Oh, no.
that kills Bailey.
But it's like, but it's still Stan Lee. Like he takes the drink, he's like, wow. Oh, yeah, so he's getting it on with that lady, right? And they're like up top where no one can see them or something like that. And he's like, oh, I gotta pull out, sorry. And he pulls, and it's like, and it goes down
into the bottle.
He's like, wait, stop. He finds like the little dot and he wipes it up, but then you see on the bottle just like it's like all
in the drink.
Yeah.
I do want to say, like, I do love this section of the film because it does exactly how you should film a scene that's in another country like South America. Is just everyone looks sweaty as fuck, which is
Sweaty as hell.
But they don't do the worst thing of just putting a yellow piss filter over everything. Instead, they shoot it. It's beautiful and crisp, and everyone's sweaty as hell. It's great. It's a visually great movie, and this is just one of those moments where I'm like,
very colorful.
No Breaking Bad fucking yellow piss filter for the Hispanic country.
Yeah, I appreciate them not doing the Latino filter on there. Like that was very kind and sensible of them. Like you said, it's very, everything shot in Brazil is very crisp. It pops. I love the aesthetic of it. It's that mid 2000s goodness. Just like that kind of cooler tones and the colors and everything like that. Which with all the favelas and like the different colored roofs and like kind of just materials and like the bricks and everything like that, or like the just colors on the people on their clothing, everything pops because it's a nice cool tones for like the streets and everything like that. So I love it. The only kind of sin I would say, as Marty alluded to, is man, sweaty as hell. Sweaty as hell, which maybe that's accurate, but it's also like everyone's glossy.
They had the PA off camera just with that spray bottle ready to go. He just
everyone's moist.
Yeah.
Mr. Norton needs to become sweatier now.
It's like I just think of that shot of like when he's with that guy who's teaching him how to like breathe, to like calm his heart rate down, and you just see his tummy just go, and it's all sweaty. I was
just about to say, I mean, I appreciate the film does, as Andy mentioned, a great job of like establishing his life just like out here, and you get a kind of a very earnest view of like this character when they're not doing superhero shit. Well, I appreciate, and I appreciate the commitment to the concept and the theme of him trying to control his Hulk side and his anger and his emotions. So he takes up doing jujitsu from this like Brazilian martial artist, and then he's like doing breathing exercises with him. And I will never forget, as Marty said, how fucking gross it is though when this like this martial artist is like showing him the technique and he's like sucking in his gut, and it's like intense. Like this shit, his belly goes like up in his rib cage, basically.
Skin wrap around the spine almost. It's so weird looking.
Yeah.
It looks gross. And then he goes in and out. I don't like it.
Well, what I love about that is I guarantee you they were just hiring someone who could be the martial artist or whatever, like just a bit actor to be there for like a day to shoot this scene with Norton, and they probably saw that he could do that, and they're like, that's going in the movie, which is the stuff like that doesn't even happen in movies anymore. It's so regimented.
Well, now it's like, oh, this guy knows how to do a backflip. He could be Spider-Man.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they didn't cast that dude as the Hulk. Like they at least gave him a little bit.
And just like to because like we're gonna have to break the peace and everything, much like what happens in the film, of course. But I do want to say, like, I do like the little Bill Bixby bit. That was really cute. I'm happy they threw that in.
Oh yeah.
Because this is courtship of Eddie's father.
Yeah. It's a great little sequence to throw in. It's sweet, and it kind of puts a little cherry on top. Like, hey, this is a reboot quill to Hulk, but also like we have to acknowledge the Incredible Hulk show to some degree because this is very much owes a lot to the Incredible Hulk show as well.
Yes, and as we said on the last episode, the reason the Hulk is such a cultural icon is because of that show.
Yes.
Like, that show cemented that character as, like, everyone in the world knows him.
Yes.
But yes, like, they very much took inspiration from the man on the run, fugitive structure of that show, which Edward Norton is of the right age that he would be watching that, at least in syndication. So that was probably his main reference for the Hulk.
As I always like
go ahead, Mark.
As I always like to bring up just to know how big television was at the time. More people watched the Incredible Hulk show than watched Hulk or the Incredible Hulk film combined. That's how major that television show was. Like, more people watched that show than they had watched both Hulk movies. That's how impactful Incredible Hulk as a show was in the 70s.
Yes. And so it's the reason that the Hulk still exists.
Yes.
But because it's the man on the run type of story, that is when they get Emil Blonsky to come in, played by Tim Roth, and they have that excellent chase sequence.
Yes,
through
the favela roofs and all that.
Oh yeah, dude, that was so sick.
Yeah, and it's, again, like I said, so clearly inspired by Jason Bourne, but like all the elements are there. Like the theme is banging. Like it's dynamic and kinetic. There's emotional resonance to it.
Oh yeah,
I do want to say before we get to that sequence, the part with him being with Bruce Banner being accosted by the thugs, and they're speaking in their Star Wars language and all that.
Like down the Portuguese. Star Wars language is fucking insane. I'll speak that alien shit. Jesus.
You know what? We were talking about the prequels before we started recording, and like that is exactly the thought process behind the prequels. So,
because I'm like the little rat guy, I'm like, he kind of sounds like Watto a little bit, but
oh my god.
But anyway, that sequence where they're trying to kill him, or like rough him up, and yeah, they're gonna kill him, of course. But I love that like you have like a great use of shadow and the use of like just darkness, because there's that part where it's like you get the Hulk, like when Bruce Banner's turning, and you just get the silhouette of the eyes as he's about to change, and such a great shot, which I've made that face plenty of times before when I'm about to start gooning, I'm gonna tell you. So I know where he's coming from. But then like when he actually turns into the Hulk, and you have that great bit where it's just like this hard line of shadow between the Hulk and these three dudes, and the guy kind of approaches, and you just see the hand just pull him into the dark, and that's it. That's so great.
Yeah. It's great because it treats him like a monster, which he is. Like, he's supposed to be intimidating and uncontrollable. And yes, so we'll talk. The chase leading up to it is excellent. The theme is great. I especially love that little sequence where they're going through all the laundry that's hanging on the roofs, and he's like looking back, and then the guy just falls because Bruce has been living here for who knows how long, and he knows it like the back of his hand. But yeah, then they get into the factory, which again they've already set this up because this is a real movie, and they're set up and payoff. They don't just run into like a green screen, but it's great. I love the way like the Craig Armstrong's theme, like dun 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 dun, like it keeps like it's like a heart pounding, and I love because there's the classic Bruce Banner getting accosted, getting beaten up. That happens in every episode of the Bill Bixby Show, and I love how he's like looking at the thing, and you see his heart rate going up, and the music's getting more intense, and you see the soldiers lining up their guns, and it's just. It is so intense and it's so kinetic, and you're so with it in that moment. And then, of course, you have that great payoff, as you mentioned, with the green eyes. That's the money shot right there. And I love one of my favorite shots in the whole thing is the guy gets fucking flung out of the darkness through like 2 panes of glass, lands, but then like the fucking soldiers are going by him, and you just see him like.
He's still alive.
He lets out a little gasp.
Well, first off, that was definitely a studio note. They're like, the Hulk can't just splatter somebody. But also, I love it, the reason Bruce Banner constantly has to get beaten up in these things is, one, he needs a reason to turn into the Hulk. 2, the Hulk is a power fantasy at the end of the day. And so, like, everyone has wished they could turn into the Hulk when they were on the playground, or, getting in a fight with somebody or some shit like that. You know what I mean? And so I love that it maintains that air of wish fulfillment, which none of the Marvel movies that are coming out now do. It's all blue lasers. There's no stakes. There's no nothing. Like, but in this, it's like the actual wish fulfillment of like, oh yeah, what if you could beat up people that were messing with you? And so I just love that. I love that it maintains that.
I love that the main thug, who, for those who like haven't seen in a while, like he is not only just an interesting dude like physically, but he's like he's very small. He's a very small, like bald gentleman with some stubby fingers, and I love when Bruce turns into the Hulk and flings his ass, like Andy said, like through like 2 fucking walls, basically, like the fucking Mr. Incredible's boss. But I love that the dude, the way he, in my mind, I don't know why, but I was watching it when he was flying through those walls before he scratched against it. Yeah, he makes out this weird like. And then he like, I just thought of like Mini-Me, like when Austin Powers like fucking drop kicks Mini-Me. It looks and sounds just like that.
Yes.
And he's twirling too. As he's
he's like, he gets fucking punted basically. It's hilarious, but it works. It's great.
And then I love the other 2 like fucking just thugs are like running, and then like one of them gets grabbed and pulled into the darkness.
When he gets snaps, like this big green hand just come out the fucking darkness and pulls his ass in. It's so good.
Yeah, and the whole fight scene in the factory is great because it's an interesting place to have a fight scene. You could tell they actually like thought this out and like planned it out instead of just being like, we'll CGI it later.
All the glass, you want to talk about payoff, like the whole impetus of Bruce like getting caught was him cutting his finger on the bottles in the factory line, because that's a bottle factory. I don't know if we established that, but what I love is when Blonsky shows up and he starts, him and his guys start like shooting up the place. It's the perfect venue for a fight, not only because it's interesting, like Andy said, but because you get all the physical and practical effects of like all these bottles exploding, as they're like shooting up at the Hulk.
Yep.
Especially because this is a PG-13 action movie. It reminds me of in Hellboy 2004, when Hellboy is fighting that big Lovecraftian monster on the subway. Guillermo del Toro in the commentary talks about how he has him pick up like a payphone and start hitting him with it, and he said the reason they did that is because the change can fly out and it can substitute for blood spraying. In the same way that like when guns are firing and shit's going off, this is a PG-13 movie, so you can have glass blowing everywhere instead of more graphic stuff that might
graphic
get you trouble
where you get no impact whatsoever because they didn't plan that out that way, or it's just
or because the Hulk is bulletproof.
Yeah, exactly.
Or because the Hulk is bulletproof and there's no like stakes at all. We're not going to talk about like every frame of this fight scene, but one thing I will bring up: great production design. If that's the person who made this decision, in having the soda that's being bottled be green.
Yes.
I mean, come on.
Yeah,
and you have green soda spraying everywhere.
Too.
Yeah, like a yellow green.
Yeah, that was pretty great. And I do, because we're bringing it up now because we have the chase sequence and all that, and we're introduced to Tim Roth's character, who I quite like him in this movie. I think he does very well. I like that he is a little 5'6" demon chasing after Edward Norton everywhere, and you can you're not very intimidated because it's Tim Roth. He looks. He's an emaciated little fella, but the way he's fucking booking it after him, you're like, okay, this guy is he is a worthy match for Bruce Banner. Not Scott Cole, but for now Bruce Banner. He is tenacious. He's going to go after him and get what he wants, basically, and I admire that.
This is clearly
a good way of casting.
This is clearly someone who got to where he is in the military by thinking he had something to prove.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so he's just turned himself into this hunter. The only other shot I will talk about in this is because, again, we got to get through the whole movie, but that part where they throw the flashbang and it illuminates the Hulk and you just see the silhouette of him and you see how big he is. This is also, okay, sounds gross, but this is the perfect size for the Hulk. What I love about this version is he doesn't get taller than 12 to 14 feet. Yes. And as we were talking about in the earlier episode with the Ang Lee one, him getting 20 to 22 feet tall, almost King Kong size, is the Ang Lee Hulk gets almost to the size of Peter Jackson's King Kong, which is just it's too much after a while. Now, obviously that movie's flawless, but what I love about this is it's a more vulnerable Hulk that if you shoot him with a bazooka, he'll probably fall back at least.
And that's the difference is that, Ang Lee's Hulk is really big and bulbous and he's just too big. You can't get much enjoyment out of him. But Norton's Hulk, he's you know, he's a good, you know, medium size, and he's got, you know, some definition and some veins, so you feel every inch
Some
of it.
girth. Yeah.
The
That's what Andy means.
twinkification. Just the twinkification of Hulk.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. The one thing, because we were talking about like the design of the Hulk before we started recording, looks nothing like Ed Norton.
Yes.
That doesn't really bother me. What I do like about it is it kind of evokes the Lou Ferrigno Hulk a little bit, because it has the shaggy hair and like the more pronounced brow.
Well, the reason for that also is because Lou Ferrigno did the voice of the Hulk in this one, so.
Which is why they stopped doing that after like Age of Ultron. I have no idea. Like, I know
it's so good. His
He
voice
sounds
is
so good.
I know. Yeah.
Okay, just that shot, and I this is like where I'm like, okay, like, yeah, he can do the Hulk voice still to this day. I still want him to do it. Is that part where he's like towards the climax, and we'll get to that, you know, as we go through it, but where he's like kind of screaming as he's trying to strangle out like the villain, and he's just, and then, you know, Betty calls out, and he goes, like, that's like something about that sticks in my head, and I'm like, that's so fucking good.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No,
but I like the,
Lou
I like the
Ferrigno.
design. I don't mind the design at all. I just think
I do have thoughts on it. I agree with Andy. I think it's the perfect height, like size wise. I don't mind that it doesn't look like Edward Norton either. That doesn't bother me. I just don't care for his face. It looks a little weird to me. And then I don't like how like dehydrated he looks. Like it almost comes off like as emaciated. Like his skin is very taut and tight. And I understand that's like muscle and that's supposed to be like, you know, his definition. But for me, he just looks like dehydrated. Like it just its skin is like way too tight. Whereas like again, not speaking to necessarily the character or the movies that are in, but like the Mark Ruffalo Hulk, I like just the overall just design of that one because it's like bulky but not too emaciated. But it's not like the Marshmallow Man. Like I kind of feel like the Angelique Hulk one looks a lot. So that's my biggest thing is like I don't like how weirdly defined or like just how tight his skin looks. It looks kind of weird to me. And then two.
Okay.
Sorry. The last thing I was just saying, I don't really care for the color. I know that's like a weird nitpick, but like for me, it's this weird like gray, like green skin tone that I don't know, just something about it I didn't really like jive with. I'm like, I kind of want my Hulk to be like definitively green. This one felt like they were trying to go again for that more quote unquote grounded and realistic thing. So they were doing like a half measure where he's like a off green. It's like a grayish green color, and I didn't really like that much. So that is my kind of beef for the design. It doesn't look horrible by any means. It's just it's not my favorite.
I didn't mind that really so much. I do like that you bring up the connection in my head though, because 2003 Hulk definitely looks like a marshmallow. This Hulk skin wise looks like the skin on like a Slim Jim, basically, where you're like, if I like put like my fingernail on that's gonna slice right open.
Yeah, it's very tight.
Well, and here's the thing. If you leaned into the monster version of the Hulk completely, like if you were just doing an Immortal Hulk movie, that would be a better look.
Yes.
That look would fit, where it's like, you lean into the body horror of it a little bit more. This being the superhero version of the Hulk, I can see why he's so shredded, but yes, Nick, I agree with you. The green shade doesn't quite work for me. I think to this movie's detriment, and again, I've talked about how much I love this movie. I think the Hulk duology is vastly underrated. I love this movie. This is the worst the Hulk has looked on screen, like CGI wise. This is definitely the weakest CGI. Maybe not counting like, I don't know, like episodes of She-Hulk or some shit, or like or Avengers or Avengers Endgame even. I'm talking about like the real Hulk. Like this is if we're comparing Ang Lee, this, and the Avengers. This is the worst that he's looked on screen. It's just, it's clearly like they weren't as focused on it as like Ang Lee was for his, and it clearly like the technology wasn't there the way it was for the Avengers either. And I think that's a detriment to it, because there's a lot of times where the Hulk does kind of look like a PS2 game in this. Like he doesn't look like he's there. He looks like kind of dropped in. He looks weightless, which is unfortunate.
I think you don't feel that as much in certain sequences, like the opening bottle sequence where he's all in shadow. You don't feel it so much in the thunderstorm scene, but you do feel that in scenes where it's like on the college campus, where it's like middle of the day, the sun's right up here, and the whole just looks so flat with the background.
The compositing is just not that great in the bright light.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but again, like I fucking love this movie. It doesn't ruin it for me at all. Like,
Yeah, but what saves that scene, of course, is that he kicks Tim Roth and he goes fucking flying, which is great. So
Yeah, talk about punting mini-me.
and you just see him hit the tree and both of his limbs just
Yeah, this is definitely absolutely stretching the suspense of disbelief about that we often like see this kind of almost little narrative dissonance where it's like the characters like the Batman thing. It's the Batman thing where it's like this motherfucker is like snapping people's necks and like breaking spines and like doing all this crazy shit where it's like they are dead, but then miraculously like they're fine.
yeah.
And there is a reason. There is an actual reason, why Tim Roth's character literally it should be dead. So the film, I don't want to be. It's not a cinema sin thing. I'm not going to be like, oh well, he technically the movie even goes out of the way to explain it.
It's a fun little bit. So
yeah, it's just funny that doing this Looney Tunes shit where it's just like, oh, they're dead. Like that guy should be fucking dead. But because it's a PG-13 movie, like, no, he's fine.
he's fine.
Yeah. Well, and. Well, before we get to like that campus battle, we should talk about the reunion with Betty Ross. I do. Yes, it's very good. You really feel the tragedy of these people not being able to be together.
Yeah.
And you can tell what I love about it is that he's not even there. He doesn't want to ruin her life. He's like, until he's cured of the Hulk, he doesn't want to see her again. He just needs to be there to get data. And again, this is sort of where the plot of the movie starts to kind of taper off. I think it's a great pace up until the end of the campus battle. But yeah, he gets there. I love that
they run into each other at Albert Einstein's little pizzeria place. So
named Stan.
Yeah, named Stan. Yeah.
Stan.
Yeah.
What I love about it is that moment where he comes out and he sees her and then he leaves, and just that look on Liv Tyler's face of like someone that you haven't seen in 8 years. Also might even be dead as far as you know, and then they're there like 2 feet from you, and it's like she sells that like you can't even really it's as if like a dead relative just bumped into you in Target or something. You know what I mean?
She sells so much with her eyes in that moment.
Yes.
Yeah. And when she comes up to the guy, Stan the pizza man, that should have been Stan Lee.
Yeah.
That should have been Stan Lee. But that guy's good. But yeah, like I just love how she comes up to him and she's like, just don't lie to me. Like I have to know if what I saw was real. And you just see on his face, he's like, aw. I can't do this. The pretty little Betty Ross. I got nothing but marinara left over. Which is a line he says. But yeah, like I think this like little separated romance thing works for the most part. I think the problem is because this movie has the man on the run structure to it, they don't really get a chance to dwell on that as much as I think both of these actors could sell.
Well,
they should
so much more. They're trying to get through the paces to get to the big action sequences, which I get. It is this weird thing. So it's like this is a reboot, Quill. So there's elements that carry over from Hulk 2003, and there's weird little things they do with characters where it's like you can ignore it for the sake of consistency, but it is that thing of like, oh, this Betty Ross has never seen him turn into the Hulk, which is such a strange thing to see in the film.
No, she did, because remember he turns in right when they're doing the experiment at the beginning, and she's like looking at him through the glass.
That's the thing, is that she doesn't know what he turns into, because that's the thing that Thunderbolt Ross keeps bringing up to her, is like, you don't know what he is.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
it's like they totally like gloss over for the sake of like, this is a sequel. I treat it as a sequel to Hulk 2003. But there's like these little like things where it's like you didn't need to just throw that in. This is just kind of overcomplicates things, but whatever. But this is a Betty Ross who hasn't seen him turn into Hulk. She doesn't really understand why he's been on the run for so long. Why she feels abandoned by him. This isn't the Betty Ross who from Hulk 2003 that knows he had to run away for a specific reason because he's the giant monster man. This is a Betty Ross who's like, where did you go? Like there was an accident and you just disappeared, and what happened? So
and I love just the little 2008 espionage where she drives into her house and then he just comes up in the chair. He's just been laying down in her car. I'm like, you know what, like considering like where US intelligence was in real life at that time, that's believable.
Got a ball cap and glasses on.
It's funny you mentioned that because, like, one thing that kind of came to mind while I was watching this is that it's very 2008 in that, I mean, one, without even kind of sidetracking us into the whole discussion about like the military's relationship specifically with the Marvel movies. It is very interesting just getting like a time capsule view of this, where they're doing this very preliminary NSA stuff, or what we would very soon in the following like 2 years find out about the NSA and during this Obama era. So it's just very fun to me when they're doing like this all kind of like updated 90s hacker thing, where they're like, track his location. If he sends an email, it's going to go through the web and we're going to filter it and we're going to track it down. Like the very kind of rudimentary CGI, I guess, visualization of like what the CIA, what Central Intelligence agencies are like doing to track our like telecommunications, and like how when they're on the run, Bruce is like, you can't bring any of this. They track you through everything. It was just very funny to me, like seeing that, and then what we would soon find out, like literally 2 years later.
What a summer of cape shit! Because man, you had Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, and the Dark Knight all going like, do not trust the government.
Again, and then literally.
Punisher Warzone too.
Yeah.
It's very of the time. It's very contemporary like topic, because literally within like 2 years we have Edward Snowden and Chelsea Manning and everything that kind of comes off of that as we go into like the second Obama term and all the NSA stuff that comes out. Like that was happening during this time. So it's just very interesting to me that this was like a part of that, like culturally.
Andy, was your idea for Punisher Warzone throwing it in there, that sequence where he's standing in front of the American flag or whatever? He's trying to
100%. Yeah. 100%. But then they also have like the whole like espionage thing where like the government's working with the mob in Queens and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just trying to find an excuse to bring up Punisher Warzone because it's real bad.
I like it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, that's a different episode. But yes, I love that you bring that up, Nick, because I think for the most part it is fairly believable. I don't think this is outdated with its view of the military or its view of their operations in the way that like Independence Day or like Roland Emmerich's Godzilla is. Because that like late 90s era was really bad. Like and I don't even mean like politically wise. I just mean like in how dumb like a lot of the plot points were. This one, I think I think they gloss over it, but they do sell it where he's like, don't turn on your phone. They can track that. Don't use your credit cards. Everything else we should be good with. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, well, if you're on the run for like 8 years, you probably would have figured that out.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, though, I just think it's a very interesting kind of cultural time capsule, especially when we're talking about this film's contemporaries with like Iron Man, where it was simultaneously like Disney is being, and Marvel, vis-a-vis, is being flooded with like military like money, like literally money straight up from like the U.S. military and consultations for them in exchange for being able to use different props and whatnot for it. But it's just very funny that they're still able to have like this kind of very light, mind you, critique with Iron Man having like commenting on like warmongering and everything like that, and arms deals and the Iraq War, which again the most vague allusion to it, and then this talking about the most vaguest allusion about like the NSA.
It's big brain time, fellas. You know why that is?
I was going to say big brain time.
Big brain time. That's because in 2008, Marvel wasn't owned by Disney yet. These movies were made by Paramount and Universal, not Disney.
Oh.
And as soon as Disney took over, all of a sudden, U.S. military, big good guys, right?
Well, I mean,
exactly.
To be fair, one that is actually an excellent point. I appreciate that correction. You're right. That is probably the only reason we even have the light criticism of it. That being said, the Hollywood economics, still everything else about like the military being involved in like the consultation, all that still applies. Unfortunately, that's just Hollywood. That's a topic for another time. But it I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't know that this is in fact prior to Disney. So like this film specifically.
Some guy's going to be like in the comments, be like, "Well, Iron Man 3, and fuck off."
Yeah.
All I'll say is this is like these are 100% valid points, but this was also at a time where it's like it's a Hulk movie, it's an Iron Man movie. We're not going for like a takedown of like U.S. imperialism. Yeah.
No, of course.
That's for the Dark Knight.
Yeah, exactly.
That's for the Dark Knight
a month later.
But also, the Dark Knight is like aiming for higher thematic and narrative goals than
Don't get it twisted. I'm not over here being like Hulk should have been red and should have had hammer and sickle. I'm just saying that like it's just very interesting to me that this is something that was like even brought up in this kind of movie, like period. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think since we've been going on, or do you have one more point to throw on there?
I was just gonna say, like, and it's more realistic. And their last scene with the Data is where he literally like swallows it and then pukes it up. I'm like, that's clever.
Yeah.
That's
That
clever.
was
Because
fun.
if you're gonna hang on to something, if you're the Hulk and you're gonna turn into the Hulk and you gotta hold on to something that's incredibly important and it's small enough for you to swallow, that's the only, like, what's he gonna do? Put it in his ass jean pocket? Like, it's gonna be
No, because he would thunderclap and it would break.
Yeah.
I was going to say, since
Yeah.
we've been talking about the military part, we should probably bring up William Hurt as Thunderbolt Ross, who I think is
Yes.
okay.
He's okay.
He is a very worthy follow-up, successor to Sam Elliott. The problem is that Sam Elliott just has that natural gravitas to him.
Yes.
And he has that natural gravitas insofar as it works for a comic book character.
Yeah.
He gives Ghost Rider more dramatic heft.
Yeah.
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Just by being
It's a gravitas in performance that I think William Hurt gets the performance fine in this. It's the issue of this is that version of Thunderbolt Ross is the layered character, the guy who has demons in his past, that's messed up his family.
Yeah.
This is Thunderbolt Ross, the cartoon character version.
This is the one from Incredible Hulk issue 1 where he's like, my daughter's going out with a milksop, you loser. Like they're about to test the biggest gamma bomb ever, and he's like screaming in the lead scientist's face about what a pussy he is.
Yes.
He's like, bah, you don't know what you're like, bah. And then Betty has to be like, oh, Dad, leave Dr. Banner alone. Yeah. Like, that's kind of the dynamic that Betty and Thunderbolt Ross have in this. It's not terrible because Liv Tyler and William Hurt are both excellent actors. It's just, it doesn't, nothing in this movie comes even close to that moment I love from Hulk 2003 where he's like, I'm sorry, Betty. I am so sorry. But that is really great. And it doesn't have a moment like that in this. There's a lot of him being like, well, you can't see this clearly. Like, having said that, he is good. Yeah. He is good. Like, he does what he can with the material. And it's not even like Thunderbolt Ross is written poorly. He's just written as a straight up villain, which is unfortunate because that character has a lot more gravitas to him.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, all of that development is shoved aside for his appearance in Civil War, and then now Harrison Ford clapping his cheeks as Red Hulk. So
yeah, and getting rid of the mustache because Harrison Ford can't be bothered to fucking do any work these days. Like I will say, just while we're talking about performances, it's probably a good transition to let's just talk about briefly Liv Tyler. So I think she's pretty good across the board in this. I don't think she's great. I know she's a great actress, but I don't think she's great in this. She is good. I think her and Edward Norton have good enough chemistry. Yes. I have to hit me with the stick, but I have to say this: Liv Tyler, when she does that soft-spoken voice, she's like saying Bruce, and like the particular way she does it with those eyes and those lips. Man, I need my heart rate monitor. I need to not get too excited, because man, it was doing things to me, dude. Like on this rewatch, I was like, what the fuck? Why is she talking like that? Why she got me acting up?
Well, again, that's the comic book power fantasy where it's like, it's such a pretty lady, I'm gonna turn into a monster and throw a rock at the sky and roar at thunder because she's such a pretty lady. I say that as a joke, but when you're like 8, that is kind of like the level of nuance you have, and that is part of the power fantasy of superheroes.
She was saying Bruce in the same way the weird dude in the first row of the movie theater I went to go see Incredible Hulk was saying Bruce, because we went to go see it. It was me and my dad. I was 12 years old, just about to turn 13. We're sitting in the theater. It's this little theater in North Hollywood. They got screenplay, and same theater I saw Superman Returns. So, I've got some lineage here. I'm happy to be here. And there's just this dude who's it's 5 of us in the theater. There's this dude 2 rows ahead of us who he was maybe William Hurt's age during this movie. And he's acting like he's having a religious experience watching it. This is a man that has nothing else except Hulk in his life, I think. Because he's the part where
it's me from the future.
It is. Because the part where he runs to Betty on the bridge or whatever and the rain's falling, I could hear him. I could see his face over here, his mustache and everything. This old dude's going, "Oh, Bruce."
What the fuck? Oh, hey man,
still
hey
in
It
man.
is
my
me from the
head.
future.
It's been like 17 years, and that's still in my head. Is this old dude watching Incredible Hulk, tearing up every time, going, "Oh, Bruce."
Damn, Marty,
Yeah.
way to ruin my fantasy. I'm over here just like, acting up because Liv Tyler is like talking.
He says it the
that
same way
particular
Liv
way.
Tyler does, though.
Well, I will say this is one of those first movies like when they're getting their little intimate moment on in the motel room or whatever, and she like wraps her legs around him. Like 10-year-old Andy was like, it was like that guy. I don't know if I've told the story on the podcast, but that guy in Megalopolis that just like sat forward, like when I was watching that movie, like
Locking in.
little 10-year-old Andy was like, like you know that meme of the guy sitting forward in the chair.
Yeah.
it was that. I just like locked in. I was like,
Look, I'm gonna say this. I say this with all love and respect to Miss Tyler because she is a wonderful actress. As we were speaking, I realized like what standing here. I realized what like was getting me like going about her performance in that specific way. It's because she's talking like a JOI video. That's why, like the tone and the soft spokenness of it. I was like, is this intentional? Is she trying to get me like to act up like right now? Like, what's going on?
The ultimate play, though, because like he can't get off her, he'll turn into the Hulk. He wants her so bad, she wants him so bad, but he can't do it, or else he'll turn into the Hulk. I can't get too excited.
Lydia, I mean, clearly, like that whole scene was like supposed to be as close to like a sex scene as you could get with these movies and at this time period. Obviously, like him having to stop. It's like the Captain America thing where why aren't they drinking? Well, Captain America's like, I can't get drunk. My liver grows back too fast. Hulk's like, why can't I Hulk smash? And it's because if I get too excited and get too horned up right now, then like I'm gonna turn to the Hulk and kill everybody. So I get that. I will say though, for those constraints, they did a decent job because I mean, we're talking like pigs, but like the last point is like Liv Tyler not only talking like that, not only wrapping her legs around him like Andy said, but then when he has to stop, like Bruce has to stop, she's like, why? Like in like just saying that in that particular tone, I was like,
Yeah.
goddamn. All right.
no. When he goes, I can't get too excited, and she's like, not even a little excited.
Oh, so-
Like, and he's just like, I would travel to the Arctic and put a gun in my mouth, like if that was my life. Like I'd just be like, what?
He's like, I'll explain this a little bit. He's like, no, Betty, I can't get too excited, or else my foreskin's gonna come back.
Oh my god.
So
That's a reference to an off the mic conversation.
Can you answer this question for us? So, if Wolverine can regenerate his skin, and he's born 170 years ago, does he still have his foreskin? Well, obviously. But the Hulk, he can regrow. Does that mean his foreskin comes back? And when he turns back into Bruce Banner, does it fall off again? The world may never know.
Yeah. And that's what I brought up. It's like, okay, if Bruce Banner gets his appendix removed, does it grow back when he becomes the Hulk? That's what I would say. So the same principle applies to his foreskin, I would say.
Like, just think about like little kid you, and you're just like, no, Superman would win in this fight. That's how it used to be. Now it's like, would the Hulk's foreskin grow back?
Yeah.
Well, that was another thing. Like, when I was a kid, I was like, well, maybe when he turns into the Hulk, he could be like extra gentle with her. Like,
you're looking out for your boy. You're like, how can he fuck? How can he Hulk smash right now?
like this is so unfair. Like a fate worse than death.
If
Like,
she uses both hands, she could tickle one of his balls,
Oh, yeah, because there's that part where she jumps on him. She's like, Bruce, look at me, and he's like, and he's all strapped down on the table, and he's like, can I just reach my dick?
Yeah, this was the very last MCU movie that was like anywhere close to horny. The very last
Because
one.
I'm thinking of that part where Tim Blake Nelson is gonna like press the button, and she's like, wait, there's more. Like he's like, oh my god, wait, there's more.
Just let him finish.
Scene in Scary Movie 2. It's like that scene in Scary Movie 2 where she just blows back.
Oh yeah.
But it's green, like the soda. Yeah,
I mean,
possible gamma sickness.
I mean, getting back on topic real quick. I will say, just on a more serious note, overall, I think Liv Tyler and Edward Norton have like a pretty decent relationship. Like in the film, I think they sell it when they're supposed to have intimate moments. Like I was able to buy into it enough. where I was like, okay, I think the writing maybe could have been a little bit stronger, but I feel like overall, they did a good enough job to service it, because I believe it. You know what I mean? Especially like when later in the film, we're just jumping around at this point, but like when he jumps off the plane, to reactivate the Hulk, and he fucking smashes into the ground, like she really would look devastated, like and as much as I think Liv Tyler delivers like a pretty good performance overall, I will say it's kind of funny. Again, her JOI voice and subtleness it is like most of her performance in this, but then she'll have these outbursts where she's like screaming, like bloody fucking murder, like popping off, whether it's screaming at her father or screaming at that fucking pig-headed taxi guy. Like, just it's very funny contrast of her being very soft-spoken and mild-mannered and like quietish the whole movie, and then she just fucking explodes with this like just screech basically when she's like screaming at somebody.
No, Bruce, do not come. Do not come. Bruce just, I want to come. That's Andy watching the movie. I think Nick froze again.
Yeah. And it was to your voice that worked.
You're welcome. You're welcome. But okay, so bringing that all up, I think it's a good point to kind of come to like the end of this film in the sense of like, what do we think of the big climactic action sequence, which I absolutely adore.
Well, yes, and I think that goes hand in hand with, there's one other person I want to briefly mention, which is Tim Blake Nelson as Samuel Stearns. He rescues the third act of this because it's getting kind of boring when they're on the run. It's not terrible, but you're like, it's very like 2000s, like they're just kind of fucking around for a while, and you're like, okay. But then the moment he comes on and he's like, oh, Dr. Ross, and he kneels and shakes her hand and stuff, like. It's that, like, he fucking rescues it until the Hulk shows up again. Yes. Like, what a fucking, like, he bought them at least 15% more on Rotten Tomatoes. Like,
yes. Well, yeah,
you know what I mean?
You bring that because, like, the film does definitely lose its way for a little bit towards the end of the second act, and it does become them just fucking around for a while. And then as soon as he appears, the gears start going again. The film finds its footing again. And he I mean, like, he doesn't get a lot to work with because he is just a third act character appearance. But I think, like, he saves the third act entirely. He brings the movie back to focus, and he gets his little moment of like he's going to become the leader in fucking 15 years.
Good on them for picking a character or picking an actor that can sell the comedic stuff that's required of him in this movie, but also can go completely cold and completely menacing and intimidating when and if they need him to. Again, like you said, fucking almost 2 decades later when they finally decide to bring him back. But yes, so that leads us into the climax of the film, where I think again a little bit of the weakness is just that like Emil Blonsky is like, I need to become that, and he's like, all right. Like I get he threatens him, I get he puts a gun in his face and stuff, but it cuts to like 5 seconds later, and he's just like pumping him full of the stuff. I'm like, there's not a single other military person that's in this lab. You know what I mean?
There was one. It was that woman, and then Blonsky like knocks her out, and he's just like, "That bitch wouldn't shut up." And that was like, to me, it kind of took me back a little bit. I was just like, I don't think I've heard anybody cuss this whole movie. Just randomly, he's just like, "That bitch." I'm like, whoa.
How do we make you dislike him now? How do we make
literally, very.
He's become unhinged.
It was like kicking.
He shot the puppy in the beginning.
Well, he shoots the puppy at the beginning. But I do like the little science play because, like, I mean, like we've talked about off camera, like how much I love like fucking Alien Covenant and Prometheus, and I like that Romulus plays that a little bit. I love that he is first injected with the Captain America Super Soldier Serum, and then they inject him with the Hulk stuff, and that's why he turns into a fucked up monster.
I don't know what you could have been ladling into yourself, but if you'll just get back on the table, I'm sure I can fix this. And he's like, he just gets fucking thrown. And like again, like it's a little bit weak that just blood hitting his temple is like gonna start turning him into the leader. Well, like I get it, they needed that's true, but I mean, like, why didn't Stan Lee turn into like
pure concentrated Bruce Banner right there?
That's true. Yeah,
it's some Banner batter.
It's like, and he just turns to the camera and he's like, but no, yes, okay, so Yes. So it remains to be seen what we think of Tim Blake Nelson as the leader in Captain America 4.
Yes.
We know he can do it. We'll see if they let him pull it off.
Yes.
But as far as this movie goes, we get into the Hulk versus Abomination fight, which I think starts off really good, where they have like that they have that sort of like steady cam behind the soldiers going through the alley. It's a one shot. It kind of looks like Cloverfield, you know, like with all the sparks flying, and you don't really see the Abomination. You're like, that's fucking awesome. And then you see the Abomination, which, by the way, like, I don't mind the design at all. People are like, why doesn't he have the fin ears? Why doesn't he have the... Oh, what?
No, I'm like,
like, he looks fine. Oh, you're not a fan of the design?
I love the design.
No, that's what I think. I love
a huge Hulk head myself. The Abomination is one of the dumbest fucking designs in comic book history. I think he looks fucking stupid in the comics. So them making him like a weird vertebrae fish man, I think sells a lot more than how they make him look later on in like Shang-Chi and She-Hulk and all that shit. But I love how he looks in this movie as a deformed fish man beast. I think it works for this movie. So
I agree that it works. I'm not a fan. So I completely am with you there. I think that for what they were going for, like just like a body horror thing, like it works perfect. My design, my gripe with the design isn't even like the it doesn't like the comics. I agree with you. Yeah, he looks fucking like stupid. Like the actual character in the comics, like this big like weird fish guy with like fins on his like side of his face. Like he looks dumb as hell. Yeah, exactly. Like the DSLs. Like he looks silly as hell in the comics. So I don't give a fuck about that. My contention with the design is I think it looks just too generic. Again, it works for the Resident Evil thing they're going for with this one, like just a biomutant monster thing. But I just think it looks generic, because any kind of like big golem mutant monster in anything, that's what he looks like.
Well, I'll just say this. Incredible Hulk issue 432 with the art by Liam Sharp, I think is the because I don't mind the Abomination's look in the comics. I do agree that the early Silver Age stuff, it does not look good. It's really goofy, and he's got like the two toes and everything, and it's very clearly just like let's make like a sci-fi monster. I will say Liam Sharp's rendition of the Abomination, I think, is the perfect, and I'll post this on the social media, but I think that's the perfect like middle ground. Like that looks fucking awesome.
Yeah, for the audience, obviously that can't see that. Basically, what Andy is showing us in that design is it effectively looks like Hulk, but he has like much more like snarled and like bestial like kind of features in his face, and he has like these long, almost kind of gremlin like ears. And he has like his kind of like torn up cape and everything like that. I agree with Andy. I think that one looks fine. Like that's honestly kind of a cool design. But
he kind of just looks like Ultimate Spider-Man Green Goblin to me.
A little bit low key.
Yeah, well, no, Ultimate Spider-Man Green Goblin looks like the Abomination.
Fair enough, Andy. I'm actually on me tonight.
No, I'm just saying, like, I really like this design for the Abomination from this particular run.
Much better than the original design, yes.
Yes, the original design is not great. Like, I mean, come on, that's fucking awesome. Like, imagine, like, it's very Killer Croc-esque.
Yes.
Does he have a little fucking little tarp on his pants? Like, what is that?
He's got a banana hammock.
Yeah, he's wearing he's wearing like a little Namor Speedo, if you could see. But
getting back to the
431 and 432.
Getting back to the movie before Andy busts out another whole comic. I agree. I think the third act. Thank God for for Tim coming in and kind of reinvigorating the movie, because definitely was slow. But I think the third act is solid enough. Like I think it's a pretty decent close. I really love, on the topic of, like Andy mentioned, we did get a cool Cloverfield sequence, which I think is really creative. You don't see films, it's certainly not films in this genre, and certainly not Marvel films, do this, where they just kind of break away and do for like a one-off scene to do just something visually interesting like that, like a POV kind of camera, like a Blair Witch Cloverfield type thing, like out of the blue, from the perspective of these people on the ground with these big ass monsters running around. That's such a an innovative idea to include in this.
Yes.
So I really appreciated that. I don't necessarily know if it's good, but I really enjoyed it when the film really says fuck it, and you're like following those same soldiers before they're murked.
Yeah.
And they're like, facing off Abomination, who is, I don't know if we mentioned already, he's just fucking murdering people. Like, that's another thing you don't see in these films. He's just straight up grabbing innocent people and like killing them, which is pretty wild to see, even with the blood involved.
He's laughing.
Oh yeah, he just going full villain sicko mode with it. And at one point, the soldiers that were following briefly, it's so funny because they're getting a camera shot on Abomination. Thunderbolt Ross is like, "Take him out," and they're like, "Let's do this!" And they literally go to like their weapon cache in the truck that they're in, pop it open, bring out a bazooka, and I shit you not, this like black and white soldier, they're like mounted up, ready to fire this bazooka, and they're like, one of them I think goes "booyah" or some shit like that, and then they like let off the rocket, which of course doesn't do shit, but it's a very fun moment because it's just these two guys being dudes, living in the moment.
It's a character moment where these like little background characters are given like a shining moment in the movie, and it's great. It's fun. They
open it up and they go, "Wheat."
Yes.
Yeah. It's those two lines. It's one of them opens the loot chest basically, and just like, "Hell yeah, sweet," and they pull out the bazooka, and the other one's like, "Hoorah," or like, "Hell yeah," and then fucking shoots the rocket.
Well,
it's great.
The thing about the climax of the movie is, and the climax of the Hulk, is that it's like much of the other action sequences we were talking about, it is very weightless. And there are parts where it's like they don't really look like they're there. It helps that there's a lot of extras and practical effects, and it helps that it's at night.
I don't know if I'd agree with you so much on that. I agree with you in the sense of like when they jump at each other to go, it's a little ridiculous. Yeah.
It's like Michael Bay's Transformers.
Yes,
I will the shot of the Hulk punching out of the concrete, and then like that shot of him walking and pulling the shirt off, that's like iconic now. Like that, when people think of the Hulk.
Beautiful moment. I don't agree with you on the weightless comment so much on this Hulk 2003. I see that, of course. This one I don't see it as much outside of the moment where they're leaping at each other, and then when he makes like the little Hulk hand smashing thing.
I hate that.
Scar. Yeah, no, they only put it in because it was in the Hulk Ultimate Destruction video game that was super mega popular. That's the only reason it's in there.
Because it's excellent.
Because
it's excellent.
Thing. Yeah,
it's cool in the game, but like in the movie, I hate it twice in the film. He does this stupid like Hulk hand thing that they do like throughout the film. They do it twice. It's where he like splits a car in half and uses it like boxing gloves. I just don't like that. Like in the games, it's great. It's badass. It's fun. But like in the actual movie itself, it's stupid. I'm like, he's the Hulk. He should be punching with his actual fists. I don't want to see him like using these makeshift boxing gloves. What the fuck?
I don't mind so much because it does lead to that great bit where he's punching fucking Abomination constantly, and then he hits him with like the engine of the car, and then fucking Abomination just spits, but he goes, "Is that all you've got?" It's great.
And he kicks him into the building.
Yes. Yeah, I like because like the part where they're charging at each other, and the leap is ridiculous, but where they're charging at each other and they take the time to actually physically have cars flipping, like they did that as a practical effect, just have the cars flipping, they're running at each other. That's great, and it's a hype moment. I think it works in the movie. The leap is ridiculous. There are some weightless moments to it, but I think overall the characters I think have a lot more weight to them than they do in like the 2003 one so much. So I feel like you could feel like the earth shaking with them more. So I don't mind it. And I love that great moment as a whole.
There's a great moment where the Abomination is climbing up the building, and he looks through the hole, and there's like a guy in the building, and he looks, and you just hear him go, "Ah!"
That's pretty great.
Totally normal reaction to have in that moment.
There's the sort of kind of cliches of some of this era of action film like climaxes where it's like Betty Ross and General Ross, like they have to be given something to do. So it's like, oh, they go down in the helicopter and they're right there, and then like it's just a battle on like a roof,
just
like it's not like it's kind of like the least dynamic part of the movie. And I will say, like, because we can talk a little bit about like Ed Norton's disagreement with Marvel and stuff like that, because he basically wrote this movie. Like maybe the structure and some of the like overall beats were like Zach Penn's, but Ed Norton put in a lot of like the character development and a lot of the care into it, and so you can kind of feel like Ed Norton, just not only because it's the Hulk now, but you can kind of feel his presence just disappear like as soon as the third act.
Well, it's
Fight
interesting
starts.
because,
Yeah.
like, way back in the day, and I just remember this, I listened to the commentary on this movie by Louis Leterrier, the director, and he doesn't outright say that, like, Ed Norton basically wrote the script, but he does imply pretty heavily. He goes like, there's parts of this movie where it's like they kind of took it away from us a little bit. He just kind of basically has to, like, he's like, they had us cut certain sequences out, and they just, like, basically just chopped out certain parts of the script entirely because they were like, it's not actiony enough. It needs to have more action in it. So, and it's stuff that you would not see in a commentary for a big budget superhero movie anymore because they're so, don't piss off the studio, basically. But he was basically going like, maybe we'll get to do it in the sequel. But he's like, there's at least like 20 minutes we had to put on the cutting room floor to appease certain producers.
Which is unfortunate. And then, of course, there's that big fight at the end. It's awesome. He almost strangles the Abomination. He used his sonic clap, which is from Ultimate Destruction as well.
Cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, that stuff's cool. And then, of course, it's him in Canada, and he's like learning to master the Hulk. I remember they said they deliberately left that ambiguous because they weren't sure where the Avengers was going to go at that time. So they said, well, like, it can either be him learning to control the Hulk, or it can be him like losing control again, and he becomes the villain of the Avengers, which basically happens in Ultimate Avengers, the animated movie, and the Ultimates comic, where the Hulk is part of the team and then the antagonist. So I can see why even then they're thinking about the Avengers, and then 2 seconds later they're really thinking about the Avengers, because like the one thing everyone remembers from this movie is when Robert Downey Jr. fucking walks in as Iron Man, talks to General Ross.
And to understand why that's such a landmark, iconic moment is that there was no marketing that suggested this. There was nothing to imply this. It was just fans be like, well, there's a Marvel movie coming out a month after another one, and I'm like, oh my god, and maybe they're both involved. Marvel Studios is involved. Maybe do you think they're going to cross over? It was just whispers, basically. There was no, this was not confirmed. This wasn't already a universe to begin with. So when that moment happens, after coming off of Iron Man, which was a huge success and everybody loved it, that like fucking changed everything, basically.
Yeah, you had to be there. And like, coming from like the most like cynically inclined out of all of us, and like probably the one who's like over this shit like the absolute most, even I will like admit, like, yeah, dude, there was a special feeling that you just cannot recreate. Like we truly cannot go back to another environment pre this. To recreate that same kind of feeling that everybody felt. Even if this movie was respectfully pretty forgettable for most of the general audience, they will never forget, as Andy said, this moment here. Like they're gonna be like, yo, you remember when fucking Iron Man showed up at the end of Hulk? Like that was crazy because we weren't ready for it. We had no idea Avengers was coming down the pipe, and it was gonna be a real thing that we were gonna see on the silver screen. So the fact that you had not only the banger and Iron Man, but then we get the Nick Fury tease at the end of that, and we're like, oh, okay, that's just a one-off. Then this happens with Hulk, and we're like, oh shit, are they really gonna do it? And then everybody's freaking out about it.
Oh my god, so Spider-Man's gonna appear in the X-Men.
Oh, you know what? Tobey Maguire was slated. Yes. They were courting him to do a cameo at the college.
Yep.
Yeah.
And on that note, I have a question for you, guys, because you would know more than me. Was him ending up in Canada, is that just a reference to the comics, or was there ever a possibility of them being able to work with Fox? Because this is pre-Disney, correct?
Yes.
So was there ever a possibility for them, including that scene specifically with him being in Canada, was that just a reference to the comics, or was there ever a chance that they were going to link up with Fox and do like a Wolverine crossover?
Possibly.
Okay, because again, they were talking to Sony about having Tobey Maguire in here.
Yes.
So it's completely likely that they were thinking Hugh Jackman could do that. I've never heard specifically that the inclusion of Canada was directly supposed to lead to a Wolverine crossover, but that's an interesting idea.
This was a period, too, where they still thought they were going to make an Incredible Hulk 2 before Avengers came out. So I feel like they were probably thinking, like 2010, 2011, and then they would have had, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, and maybe that would have been the setup for Hulk 2 a little bit, or Incredible Hulk 2. Maybe they would have had him pop up for a scene or something like that, because he's in the Forest of Canada, Maybe I could see where that would be laid in place, because it's like, hey, there's a 4-year gap between this and Avengers. I'm sure they were planning a sequel for 2010, because that's just how sequels worked at that.
X-Men Origins Wolverine was coming out the next year.
Next year, yep. So I feel I think that's probably something that was in consideration, at least because they were trying to court Tobey Maguire into that stuff too. So.
Interesting. Well, it's also funny that you specifically mentioned, like, what they were playing out for the next 2 years, because regardless if that was a reference or not to that, or teeing that up, in 2010 we actually got the animated Hulk versus duology, and one of those was Hulk versus Wolverine, where he's conveniently already in Canada. So
also a movie that I think Zach Penn was involved in.
So yeah, I think it was.
Yeah,
they're pretty good. I watched them recently. They're pretty good.
They're fun. They're fun little 30-minute movies. But okay.
That was when Marvel gave a shit about its animation. And it's funny that you bring that up, because just as an aside, I was watching the Doctor Strange animated movie last night because someone uploaded it to YouTube for free. And I'm like, I'll put this on as I'm going to sleep. Yeah. And as I'm kind of going to sleep, I'm like, is this better than the 2016 movie? I'll figure it out later. Like, I'll figure it out. Like, I'll decide later. But, yeah. I mean, since we're at the end, we can kind of talk the film's reception now. It was like a modest success. Like, it made $260 million on like
it was made for 260. It made a $264 million on a $135 to $150 million budget. There's no confirmed like what it actually was. It's probably 150 because it always lands towards the bigger amount. Maybe they got tax breaks. Who fucking knows? But it wasn't a big financial success. It basically made again what the first Hulk movie did, but was budgeted a little bit more expensively, so it was less successful. And this is the late 2000s as opposed to the early 2000s, so marketing costs are more expensive. Inflation and all that fun shit. But also, what fucked this movie up is that it had a horrible release date because it was sandwiched between so many family movies. You know what just came out the week before Incredible Hulk did? The surprise hit of DreamWorks, Kung Fu Panda, which made $630 million.
Oh my god.
Yes.
I want to live in the world where the Incredible Hulk made Kung Fu Panda money, and we got like 3 Edward Norton Hulk movies. Yeah, that's the world I want to live in.
It came out Panda money. Take me to that world. So it's surrounded by all these other movies that all made more money than it. So it had fucking Indiana Jones 4 was on its 3rd weekend, so it was still pulling in money. And this is funny because this is this is what the 2000s box office was like. Sex and the City, the movie, was still making money. That movie made over $400 million, by the way.
God damn.
Oh my god.
You Don't Mess with the Zohan came out and made over $200 million. The Happening came out, which opened to $30 million, which shipped away from the Incredible Hulk. That ended up making $163 million, despite
that's
the quality
cinema.
of the movie.
All right, that's pure cinema. So
yeah, sure. And then you have Chronicles of Narnia: Prince Caspian, which was still making money, which made over $400 million also. And then it just got destroyed in the following weeks because then you had fucking Get Smart came out, which also made over $230 million.
That's a banger. Get Smart's a banger.
But you have all of these like movies that are chipping away at it more and more. And then by the fucking 3rd week, it was dead in the water because WALL-E and Wanted came out. WALL-E made over $500 million and Wanted made over $340 million. It kept getting... there was no... it wasn't just one big movie was dominating in the summer. There were so many movies coming out that were all chipping away at each other's box office, basically. So if you were budgeted big, you were fucked, basically. If you weren't Indiana Jones or Iron Man, which is a surprise hit, everything else was modestly budgeted. Wanted, Get Smart, Sex and the City, fucking Kung Fu Panda. These are more modestly budgeted films or made for almost a little less. And those were making way more money, so...
Well, you got to remember also, a few weeks later, maybe 6 weeks later or so, The Dark Knight comes out and wipes out all of the Incredible Hulk's cultural impact, because that's all anybody is talking about that summer when The Dark Knight came out. That was that was an event.
This is what Universal dubbed for themselves the summer of Universal, which is really fucking funny because they had the trilogy release where they're like, we're going to make billions off of this. The Incredible Hulk, Hellboy 2, and Mummy 3, we're guaranteed hits. They all fucking bombed to some degrees.
You know what? I like them all to varying degrees, and that's me being very generous to Mummy 3.
Okay, I was gonna say,
but
it's just so funny to look back on that because it just couldn't survive. There was too much really good competition going on, and
they got
was getting spread around. So
yeah, it should have come out in August or September or something, like right before kids go back to school or something. But this movie was like marketed on the same level of like the Fantastic Four movies or Iron Man. Like I remember there was like the Burger King toys and there was like all kinds of like Slurpees at 7-Eleven and there were Incredible Hulk toys everywhere in Target and Walmart,
Andy, well, to add to that point, they did have the Mummy 3 come out. And my mistake, that movie didn't bomb. It just made quite a bit less than the first two Mummy movies. But that movie made over $400 million. Had they released Incredible Hulk at that period, we would have gotten Incredible Hulk 2 instead. Had they switched the states, yeah.
Damn it!
Because they were set on that being a June hit. And that, oh my God, did The Mummy come out? The Mummy came out the week after The Dark Knight and still made like $400 million. So that could have been the Incredible Hulk.
Damn it! Because all we'll talk about to wrap this up is Ed Norton didn't agree with what they did to his amazing film. He was not happy. He decided to step away from the role, in which part we got Mark Ruffalo.
Well, let's not completely throw everything out there right there, because Ed Norton was going to be in the Avengers.
I know, and I wish that would have happened.
And this is where it starts to get interesting, where it's been pretty heavily rumored for a while. Like, he was basically like disinterested, but he was still signed on. He was going to do it. He wanted to have an input on the Avengers script. And if anyone knows how Joss Whedon is, you do not touch that guy's scripts without him flipping his shit, basically. So very likely he was like, oh, can we like add more for my character? And he goes, you're fired.
Yeah.
You're not a woman I can sexually harass. Get out of here.
That's what I was about to say.
Well, that's the thing, is like, the thing is with, as far as the character of the Hulk goes, the Avengers is the place where you can make a pretty clean, like, transition, because it's like, okay, well, just from here on out. Like, but it is really unfortunate because, like, one, it makes the Incredible Hulk feel so disconnected from everything until they start bringing in all the other actors. But also, like, Mark Ruffalo, fine actor, fine choice for the Hulk. He was actually Louis Leterrier's first choice for Bruce Banner in this movie, which I'm glad we at least got one Ed Norton movie. But yes, like, Ed Norton would have brought some more pathos to the role. And what's great is, again, like, the reason that movie resonated so much, The Avengers, is like Nick was saying, we had never seen this before. So it's Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans, Mark Ruffalo. Like it would have been even cooler to have Edward Norton's Hulk, who we had just seen established in there, and probably would have helped him get a Hulk too, because the Hulk was low-key everyone's favorite part of the Avengers. That's all anyone was talking about, was how great they finally got the Hulk right. Now they got him right in 2008. You just didn't go fucking see it because you're watching Kung Fu Panda.
Because you're watching Kung Fu Panda. the venom in Andy's voice right there. I could feel it. Yeah, it was a case of like, they did him right in 08. They did him right in 08, and then 2012 comes around. The only reason people were saying that is because you finally bothered to watch a movie with Hulk in it. It's a shame. It's just like, it is the worst version of the Hulk for character growth, I should say.
The 2012 Avengers movie, I'm specifically talking about that one, I can absolutely view as still being the same character as Ed Norton.
It still it feels like a continuation. It's just a shame Hulk is now played by a teddy bear man and not Ed Norton. So
and he's fine in that movie. But again, like I said, can you imagine
the issue though? He's just fine. There's nothing
can you imagine that intro scene where like the girl is giving him money to come check on her, sick family member or whatever? What if it was Ed Norton? How cool would that be?
Oh man, yeah. If he was in Bangladesh instead,
Yeah, or that, like that part where he's like, oh, you want to know how I stay so calm? Like, if that was Ed Norton giving that,
it would have been so much. Oh yeah, my God, like that. Mark Ruffalo trying to be tough in any of these movies is the funniest thing ever, because it doesn't work. He's not that kind of actor. So
he's not that guy. He's not that guy.
You don't want to see me lose control. It's like, all right, baby, get your fucking binky in. Jesus Christ, dude, calm down. Yeah, it's just, he's not threatening. And it's
I will back up Marty's point. Absolutely agree with him on the substance of it. I will just say, Mr. Ruffalo, you're a fantastic actor. Yes, big fan of your stuff and everything else. You were fantastic in Poor Things. But you are not my Hulk. You are not my Bruce Banner. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't want to disparage Mark Ruffalo. He's a fantastic actor. He's in great things. He gives great performances. He's just miscast. He's not Bruce Banner or the Hulk.
Not that guy.
He's not wildly miscast. he's not wildly miscast. Like he works. It's just you had the perfect Bruce Banner right there, and you let him go.
He is the William Hurt to Ned Norton's Sam Elliott, basically. Where it's like, well, he gets the job done, I guess, but he's not as good as the last guy.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And the thing is that's all Marvel wanted was for someone to get the job done, because they had no intention of ever doing anything with the fucking Hulk again, because Universal still holds distribution rights. Now, I have heard that through the internet, not that I actually know anybody who has told me this firsthand, but I've heard, didn't the deal run out in like 2023? Like, didn't Marvel regain the distribution rights to the Hulk?
Well, I'm not 100% positive on that. I don't know if it's I don't know. I think unlike Sony, where they're like, they have to be making something every couple of years, I think Universal may have been an indefinite agreement, and just like the reason it never like materialized because it was just like, hey, either you let us take a hand of the profits, like we get some profit out of this, or you pay us an exorbitant fee to get the rights back, essentially. And Disney, of course, is not going to do that because it's Disney. So, because like, we're not paying money for the Hulk, fuck you, basically.
Well, that's why they have Namor too, and that's why there's never been a Namor movie. He's just in Black Panther.
Yes. They can appear in other movies, but they can't have their own solo movie. So I personally, I don't think there's ever been any confirmation on that. It's just rumor mill stuff, and until we see a Hulk movie, I don't think it's ever good. I will not believe that it actually happened, because there's no actual report on it. It's just rumor mill reporting at that point. So
it just sitting on a mountain of money. Like, you couldn't split it fucking 50-50. Like, you could make money, especially with, like, at the height Marvel was at in, like, 2016 through 2019. You're telling me a fucking, indestructible Hulk movie where he's, working with S.H.I.E.L.D. or something?
See, the difference there is, Andy, they could do a deal like that with Spider-Man, because they know Spider-Man will make $1 billion, so they'll get a good percentage anyway. If Sony gets a majority of it, they're still going to get good money.
Yeah.
A Hulk movie's not going to make $1 billion. A Hulk movie will be good if it makes $500 million, and that's not nearly profitable enough for them to want to make a shared agreement deal. So
it's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate. I see the business perspective on that. I don't agree with it, but I see it. It's just unfortunate that led to Hulk basically just becoming a joke character now. I absolutely despise what they have done with the Hulk. It's unfortunate. It's the best thing with the Hulk in the last 10 years is the Immortal Hulk comic, which is fucking-tastic, of course.
Yes. If you're a Hulk fan, you have to read Immortal Hulk. It's the best the character's ever been in comics.
If you're a Hulk fan that loved Hulk or liked Hulk and Incredible Hulk, and you feel disillusioned with what they've done with the character in film, read the Immortal Hulk. It's fantastic. Here's the thing. It's like I liked what they did with Hulk in the Avengers stuff, and Avengers, and even up to Age of Ultron. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, there's some breadcrumbs here. There's some development with this character, and then you have him being butt-ass naked in Ragnarok, and it's just kind of a joke because they gave it to an absolutely horrible director in person. I'm kidding. I'm just trying to justify my dislike of that man.
What we're really getting at here, as we wrap up the episode, is the Hulk has so much more depth than really anybody realizes, and I think he's one of the most dramatic and serious characters in comics, to the point where, like, you can do a run, and I'm not being hyperbolic, that is on the level of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing with this character, as far as like reconstruction and playing with genre and all that kind of stuff. It's unfortunate that one of the Marvel's greatest characters, because remember, like, for 50, 60 years of Marvel's history, their two biggest characters were Spider-Man and the Hulk. It went Spider-Man, Hulk. It was like Superman and Batman for DC. That was their two biggest things. And now the Hulk is like lower than Daredevil, lower than the Punisher, lower than fucking Moon Knight at this point. You know what I mean?
And his development in film is off screen, because now he's got a son. Now he's already done the Planet Hulk thing, I guess.
Well, they're doing all the least interesting shit with the Hulk.
No,
you know what I mean? Like, where's the Gray Hulk?
It would be so easy now to knock out, I think, a one-off Hulk movie, because where Mark Ruffalo's Hulk is now, you could just do whatever you want at this point. You could do a one-off movie with him, just like going on an adventure, being to himself, trying to reflect or something. You can knock that out of the park still, but they're not going to do it.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, the general public didn't really respond to the Hulk duology. I hope that anybody listening to this that hasn't watched these movies in a while goes back and checks them out, because there is a lot of there's a lot more to them than you initially thought, at the time they released. And also, please go read more Hulk comics, because he's one of the best characters in Marvel.
More than just a supporting character. He is more than just his villains getting thrown into other characters' movies because they just don't want to pay the rights to do a Hulk movie. He is better than that.
Yes.
He is one of Marvel's best characters.
He's one of comic books' best
characters. You can't ignore that. Don't avoid it. Go read a fucking Hulk comic.
Yes.
Damn it.
Damn it. And we'll talk more about the Hulk when we force Nick to watch some of the Bill Bixby show.
Yes.
but that's another episode for another day. Does anybody have any final thoughts on the Incredible Hulk?
I'll let Nick talk because we've been dominating.
No,
Yeah,
I'm just gonna say that I think that this film is a lot better than I remember it being. It's not perfect, but like anything we talked about on the show, it was a heroic effort. There's a lot here I think that you can go back and appreciate. So much like Andy said, highly encourage everybody to especially watch The Hulk, but please give this one another shot. It's fine. It's a fun summer movie. It's a fine afternoon watch, and it's worth it. I completely concur with the guys that Hulk is a character, and I learned this from the show and these guys here that he's a character that's I think worth exploring if you're ever interested in wanting to get more depth out of. He's not just a big green guy. There's a lot going on with it. Read Immortal Hulk, and he can't sing its praises enough, and I believe him. He got me to get into it, so I'm very excited to get into that more. So the Hulk's great. These movies are fun. Definitely give it another shot. And if you enjoyed what we did here today, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to incredibly Hulk smash that subscribe button, and please be sure to follow us. And you can find my boy Andy here at
@the_super guy on Twitter and Instagram.
And you can find Marty here
at Only McFisherman on Twitter and I think Instagram too. Yeah, somewhere over there.
Yeah, I believe so.
Thank you for confirming, Andy.
I've tagged him in plenty of Instagram photos. You can find him.
Yeah, you can find me, dear listener.
Yeah.
And you can find me at Nick Talamante, Montenix on Twitter and Instagram, respectively. And you can find us all three on the next episode of Heroic Efforts. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and we hope you join us again. So until next time, Hulk smash.
Bruce, no.